Welcome back to the channel, guys. As many of you are familiar with, Star Citizen's main goal started as a space flight simulator, but evolved into a much greater game. This game relies upon immersing the player in a new, unforgettable world. Naturally, there are many pieces of hardware that can augment this sensation. Many players choose to use a hands-on throttle and stick, or HOTAS setup to pilot ships. Others use button panels to provide the awesome tactile feedback of flipping switches or turning dials. One piece of hardware that is often overlooked, however, is the Tobii Eye Tracker, and this is the piece of hardware that we'll be looking at today. My name is Puffin King, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. I will admit, the Tobii Eye Tracker is a quite unique, niche piece of hardware. It's a set of 3 sensors mounted on a bar that reminds me of the sensor bar for the Nintendo Wii. As to what it does, well, that should be quite apparent from its name. It has the ability to not just track your eyes, but the entire movement of your head, although at times it can feel more like a gimmick than an actual useful piece of hardware. The problem with using the eye tracker is that you need to adapt to an entirely different type of playstyle. In most games, if you want to look left, you move your mouse to the left, quite simple. But if using the eye tracker, you can simply glance your eyes to the left and the character will shift his or her view in the same direction. With only 167 games supported at the moment though, the question can be raised as to whether or not dropping $260 is all that worth it. Of course, the purpose of today's video is not to determine its versatility or functionality on other games, rather its use specifically for Star Citizen. Before we dive into game functionality, I want to look into the hardware side of things. Specifically, the manner in which you mount the eye tracker. Depending on whether you use a laptop or a desktop, the way you mount the eye tracker will differ. For laptops, it comes with these 2 magnetic mounting strips. The eye tracker attaches to the mount with magnets, so you can take it on and off. Quite simple. Mounting on a desktop monitor is a bit different, and here's where I have my first complaint. I can't really show the process of mounting mine since I already did so, but it consists of attaching this 2-part bracket on with adhesive and velcro, and then attaching the eye tracker on with magnets. This is what mine looks like. Yeah, kind of different. This is because my monitor's bezel isn't exactly flat. I tried to hold it up with some tape, but that wore off after about 2 days. Monitors are getting slicker and thinner by the day, and I'm afraid this mounting strategy may not work for too much longer. That's why I kind of wish they made a tripod mount, one that you can just stick on your desk. And that's exactly what I've improvised here, using a phone holder. Does it look pretty? Absolutely not. Does it work? Of course it does. I'm sure you guys didn't come here to hear me rant about my curved bezel, so let me get on to game functionality. Now, thankfully, eye/head tracking in Star Citizen isn't an on-off thing. You can turn on certain aspects of it, which is good because I don't think I would use it otherwise. There's about 50 different sliders here, but I'm going to break it into 2 parts, sitting and standing. In short, turn it on for sitting and off for standing. However, let me elaborate. I like to consider myself pretty good at shooters, even though we all know that's not true. However, I'm good enough to build up a certain set of instincts. If I hear someone to my left, my right hand moves left. I don't jerk my head to the left. While more realistic, getting used to FPS combat in this manner would almost negate all of the skill I've developed in other games. It's also really disorienting. If you move your head or even drift your eyes slightly, you no longer have your camera oriented forward, and you have no idea which way is up. So unless you plan on keeping your head perfectly still and keeping your eyes dead center on the screen during FPS engagements, I just wouldn't have any of the sliders for FPS turned on. However, there's one instance I can think of where this would be useful, and that's for cinematic shots. It's just so smooth, much more smooth than mouse movements. I haven't made a Star Citizen video since I got the eye tracker last Christmas, but just by trying it out and getting this one shot here, it's definitely a major improvement. The average person isn't interested in cinematic video production, so I'm going to move on to where the eye tracker does give you a major advantage, and that's in the cockpit. I absolutely hated having to hold Z every single time I wanted to free look around. With the eye tracker, I simply have to move my head, or my eyes. Shifting your eyes around will yield smaller movements, while moving your head is for more drastic changes. It's honestly incredibly helpful. I don't have to hold interact to move my cursor down to something I want to click. I simply move my head down and then click it. It's mostly helpful in combat scenarios. This allows you to be much more spatially aware. It even assists on landing larger craft when the cockpit is equipped with a lower window, as you can move your head to look down. And yes, it does account for roll as well, although I have absolutely no idea why you would need that. Just don't get up while you're still in the seat, or else this will happen. I guess one more thing to mention is, if you use a standalone mic, make sure you don't place it as to where it inhibits the tracker's view of the majority of your head. I'm sure many of you have tried using your webcam for head tracking, and if you already have one of these, you might be wondering whether or not it's worth buying a whole new piece of hardware if the webcam can serve the same purpose. And so here, I have inserted a side-by-side comparison using a webcam versus the Tobii Eye Tracker. Of course, the webcam isn't capable of eye tracking, only head tracking. As you can see, the eye tracker is much more smooth and reliable in terms of picking up on tracking. So is it actually worth purchasing this piece of equipment? In my opinion, no, not really. Since I got it for Christmas, I didn't have to spend any of my own money, but if I did, then I probably would not find it worth the time to save up for something like this. That being said, if I had a full-fledged paying job, that might be a different story. It can be helpful for video production and it makes dogfighting a really cool experience, but in my opinion, it's just not worth paying $260. That being said, if you like what you see, then go for it. I'm not stopping you, as I'm sure you'd be happy with it. But if you're trying to decide between buying this and like a new keyboard or something, then you might want to stay away from it. I don't have much more to say, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time, in the verse.